Welcome to the Band Director Bootcamp podcast, the go-to place for busy band directors who want practical to build programs while maintaining balance in their lives. This podcast is brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where we help directors like you find efficiency, sustainability, and impact in your teaching and leadership. And speaking of impact, our platinum sponsor, Kennelly Keys Music, has been serving musicians with a commitment to quality, reliability, and exceptional service. Whether you need top-tier instruments, expert repairs, or trusted advice, they've got you covered. Now, let's dive in and set the tempo for success.
Welcome to another episode of Band Director Bootcamp, the podcast with productivity and wellness tips for busy band directors. I'm your host, Lesley Moffat, and I'm really grateful to be sharing this platform with you. We know you don't have time for lengthy professional development webinars, so we bring you 20-minute tidbits and takeaways that you can use to support you and help you thrive in this awesome career. And today, I've got somebody who's going to take your productivity to the next level, your enjoyment of rehearsals way up, and your kids are going to be so empowered because you're going to give them some skills that are hard to give, but you know it's super important. And what I'm talking about is giving kids the ability to sight read. We all know when we've got the performances coming up or something coming up, it's so easy to spoon feed them the rhythms and clap it out and sing the parts or write in the fingerings and stuff. But are we really giving them the lifelong skills to succeed, or are we cramming for the performance? And I think all of us deep down, we want to give that true music education, which means that when the kids leave our care, they've got the skills to be musicians for life. And that's exactly what Don Crafton has done. As a band director for 13 years, he's now the founder and CEO of Sight Reading Factory, which is a platform designed to provide customizable sight reading exercises for musicians at all levels. And it's aimed at improving sight reading skills and overall musicianship. Sight Reading Factory is used by educators all over the world, students, professional musicians, and music teachers themselves. So what we want to do today is I want to talk to Don. I want to pick his brain and have him talk to us about how you can save time in the classroom and make music more enjoyable for everybody. So Don Crafton, thanks for being here and for solving all of our problems in the next 20 minutes.
Thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I solve all your problems. Hopefully I'll solve all your music literacy problems.
All right. We'll narrow it down a little bit since we've only got 20 minutes, I suppose. Hey, talk to us a little bit about why in the world did you decide I'm going to create Sight Reading Factory?
Okay, yeah. So as you said, I was a band director for 13 years. While I was teaching, there was one job I went to. It was actually in New York, and it was a high school position. And the students that I was working with there when I first started the job, they were kind of used to learning by rote, clapping out rhythms, what's this note, things like that. And I'd been teaching for a few years, and I didn't really like teaching this way. It wasn't something that was enjoyable to me. I felt like we moved really slow. Like they could play their instruments well, but I didn't feel like we were able to accomplish music that was at their level because it just took us so long to learn anything. So I had resolved, look, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna do lots of sight reading, and we're gonna, so there's all this fresh music in front of you all the time, but it's gonna force you to read new music, And so, again, I was kind of new at the time to teaching. And so I was digging through my files, passing out music. You'd sight read at one time, you'd collect it and file away. And I realized, wow, this really stinks trying to sight read like this. And I quickly learned that it was that was a tough way to do it. It was way too time consuming. So I got to thinking, I was like, man, I had this huge projector in the room, and this screen rather. And I was like, man, it'd be awesome if I could just project something up on the screen, these ensemble exercises, we can just read from it and just quickly do some sight reading. And at the time, I did some internet searching. There was nothing like that. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, it's something I need. Maybe other band directors need it. So I thought about it for many years. And probably about 3 years, I kind of came up with some algorithms that you could compose music and all this and that. And finally got the guts to do something about it in 2011 and hired a programmer. And we ended up going into business together. And that was 2011 and it launched.
Wow. I think all of us in the classroom understand how challenging student engagement can be, especially when kids are struggling. And so if we can help them not struggle as much, we can help everything get better. I know a challenge for me is I was telling you earlier, I taught high school band forever, and having gone to middle school band just 3 years ago, and being asked by people, do you keep practice records for your students or do you have them do that? And I haven't done that yet because at the beginning, because they don't know how to practice. They can go home and play the instrument a lot, but they can't always tell if they're on the right notes or are they executing the rhythms correctly. And so they might practice stuff wrong. And that's even worse sometimes than practicing, not practicing at all. Exactly. But what I love about what you were telling me, how you've got a component in there where they can get immediate feedback. Talk to us about that, because that's a game changer for having kids work outside of school.
Yeah, right. So it's a feature that we just released back in September, actually. Oh, actually, we released it back in the spring of last year. It's been almost a year, but we released it for assignments in September. And literally just a couple days ago, we released it for rhythm only. But it's this auto assessment, this auto grading feature for our sight reading exercises. Students can go there. Teachers can even kind of configure the practice settings for them if they want, if the students are just kind of practicing on their own, or they can create assignments where students can take these assignments and submit them. And again, they're already graded, but it gives really good feedback to the students. There's really good visual feedback, actually. I encourage people to go check it out because it's very unique. I haven't seen other sites present it like this. So basically, after you take it, it's not, there's lots of sites that do this now, but it gives them a nice score. There's actually different grading levels, grading strictnesses rather. We have like a lenient, a moderate, and a strict grading strictnesses. And then, but there's a real simple view of it where it's kind of like the red note, green note thing, but you can expand it to this more detailed view. And if you've ever heard of a piano roll or like a MIDI roll, where it's like this horizontal, almost like a graph looking thing with the notes, but it's this really cool visual representation of what the students played, how long they held the notes, their intonation. It's fascinating, and students really enjoy it. And it, like I said, it gives them really good feedback. So they see like the notes they're supposed to play. We call them witnesses. So they can see the witness, what they were supposed to play, and then they can see this block of what they actually played. So again, it's this for students that are more visual rather than oral learners. I think it's really helpful for them.
Wow, I'm going to go sign up for this right now. This is so cool sounding. This is literally because you poked that pain a little bit earlier, that when we all make that decision, I'm going to sight read, my kids are going to do this, and we have to pass out 80 copies of the music and then get it turned back in, and not, somebody forgets to turn it in. And it's just, sight reading that way is just not feasible, really, because it's so time consuming. So you have eliminated the time issue, the whole kids losing the music just in that time you pass it out. We teach them how to effectively practice. And that whole witness piece of here's what they can visually see what you should have done.
Oh yeah.
But I'm thinking right now of my little beginner trombone players and how freaking helpful that would be. It's just another way of reinforcing something for those that struggle still on hearing it. And so we can do that. I'm super impressed and excited about this.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah. And you mentioned, the time factor, and that is huge. And, that's one thing that I'd want your listeners to really understand, is that you absolutely can make sight reading a part of every single rehearsal, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Like, you literally can sight read a bunch of different little exercises in 5 minutes every single day. It literally only takes 5 minutes. And there's a couple different ways of doing it on our site, which is very cool. The way that I intended to do it was originally was projecting it up onto a screen. And I thought that, and that still works great. There's issues with it, in terms of, is your screen large enough? Can your students see it? But the fact that you can just quickly generate something, put an ensemble, like literally a full multiple part band ensemble piece on the screen, and they can all read it from the screen. That's really cool. A couple years ago, we came out with this way of practicing called live practice for ensembles. That's really cool. So if your students are one-to-one on devices, like if they have the Chromebooks or tablets or whatever, any kind of computers, even phones work. Imagine they have all of these on their music stands. You as a teacher can generate an ensemble exercise, and then each of their own individual parts or goes out to their own stand, like the device on their stand, you generate an exercise and it refreshes on their stand. So as you generate new ones, it just automatically refreshes on their screens. It's a really, really cool way of practicing. And again, saves a ton of time because the students just put those up on their stand and boom. Yeah.
That's incredible. I started teaching in the 1980s, and if you had told me this would be available, I'd be like, are you nuts? That is like Star Trek-y sounding, but I get it. So let me ask you a question. Let's say I'm going to pass out a piece of music and it's introducing 6/8 time or multiple meters or something like that. Mm-hmm. Is it possible, and how hard is it for me to say, let me generate something to prep for this, or a key signature or whatever? Is that something that just an old lady like me can figure out?
Yes, I love that. That's a really cool way of using the site, because I think you said you're teaching middle school band. That's what I taught. At the end of my teaching career, I was teaching young students, and that first time you introduce 6/8, for example, or a new key signature or whatever. One of the really cool things about our site, So in other words, you don't want to put this music in front of them because first impressions are huge. And I remember sometimes I would put music in front of them, and it's a good piece, and they try to play it and they just slaughter and like, oh, I hate this piece. This is the worst piece ever. And you're like, no, it's amazing. It's a really cool piece of music. So like, it's going to be in B major or whatever. It's going to be in 6/8. So what you can do, the weeks, the months leading up to it, you can start with our site. You can say, okay, I'm going to generate, concert band or choir. Oh, guys, this is band, right? So I can generate a concert band exercise, literally level 1. We're going to do 6/8. It's literally only going to be dotted quarter notes and dotted half notes, but visually it says, okay, this is how it's laid out. This is very simple. We're going to talk about this. We're going to do this a couple of times. You're going to get it. And then, the next week, all right, let's move on to level 2. And then, okay, now we see these rhythmic patterns. And so you kind of slowly progress with them how to sight read it, and again, it can be really simple and you just progressively get more difficult. And then finally, by the time you drop that music in front of them, it's like, oh, I already know all these rhythms. You don't have that pain of, not only is this a new piece of music that we're going to be doing our concert, but now I have to also teach you how to read 6/8, so that's really nice. Same with key signatures, that's going to have this nasty key change in it. And so you can start really simple with your B major level 1, and then slowly ramp that up and kind of get them used to sight reading. And then by the time they get to that key change in the music, they're like, oh, I got this now, so yeah, it's a really cool way of using it.
This is fantastic. This is just totally cool. I got a couple more questions for you, but before I ask them, I do want to take a minute and shout out our podcast sponsors, the Empowered Music Educator Academy and Kennelly Keys Music.
As band directors, we know that success is all about preparation, whether it's in the classroom, on the podium, or behind the scenes. That's why the Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you master time management, reduce stress, and create sustainable routines that keep both you and your program thriving. And when it comes to ensuring your musicians have access to top quality instruments and services, Kennelly Keys Music is the name to trust. From rentals and repairs to expert advice and outstanding customer service, Kennelly Keys is committed to keeping your program running smoothly. Visit KennellyKeysMusic.com today to explore their offerings and experience the difference of working with a company that truly cares about music education. Now, back to the show.
All right, we are back here with Don Crafton, who's been talking about Sight Reading Factory and all the cool things it does. Because as music educators, again, leaving our kids with the ability to make music when they're not in our presence is the truest gift we can do. When they're in their 30s and 40s, singing in that church choir or playing in a community band or showing up at a concert as the parent of a child that they've continued in music, right? All these things to do. So you have solved a million problems that people have. And the reason we have excuses, well, I don't have time. You've talked about how much time we can save in the sight reading process. And then down the line in the learning process because they built skills. We wouldn't dream of teaching kids a song before we've taught them what the notes are, right? And we have to build on them, and you're just you're accelerating that learning process. Right. So I'm just excited. I got a couple more things. So you already talked about how we can customize things for our kids, for our whatever curriculum we're using and the like. But there are people like me who are older, who might shy away from technology. I've tapped into a lot of it because I see the benefits. But what would you say to somebody who's like, no, I see the value of sight reading, but it's too hard? How long would you say it takes somebody to kind of get to where from the first time they go to your website till they can figure out how to at least use it in a basic way in their classroom?
Yeah, I honestly don't think it would take that long. I mean, every feature we add, everything we do, we always try to think about, even though it's powerful, we want to make it as simple and as intuitive to use as possible, right? So, once you're on your dashboard, just to, kind of, I guess, conceptually walk you through it, there's a big button that says start practicing, right? You click that, then you select an instrument or an ensemble, then you pick a level and then a key and the time, and you click a button and the music shows up on the screen. So it's really that simple to generate some music. Obviously, there's so much more to the site. You can create assignments, you can view practice logs, you can customize it. There's kind of different practice modes. There's so much more you can do. But really, if you just want to keep it simple and just generate an exercise and put it up on a screen, it's really not that hard to do. I think it's a really low learning curve for that. You did mention customization, and I did want to mention something else about that. Because some people might be thinking, hey, sight reading, it's more of an advanced type thing. You only use it with older students and that, but I definitely think it's important to start younger students on it. And I absolutely think it can be used with younger students. So again, near the end of my teaching career, I taught beginning band. And I literally used this site with them when they, like week 3. I would only see them once a week. As soon as they could make a sound, and they could hold their instruments, and they knew the first 3 notes. I used to use Standard of Excellence for teaching. Then I would start using Sight Reading Factory with them, and you can customize it. So I would use Unison Ensemble, this Unison concert band thing, and I would pick only whole notes, and I would do a range of B flat to D for all the instruments, like concert B flat to D for all the instruments, and I would just generate like an 8-measure thing that's just 8 whole notes, and it changes each time, and then it's just something to supplement the method book they would use. And then it's like the next page, you learn half notes. So I would add half notes to the mix, and I would increase the range a little bit. So as the method book increases, I would customize it to make the sight reading increase with them, so that all along, as soon as they start learning, their instrument and learning to read music, they're also sight reading. It's not like, okay, you're now in high school, let's teach you about what sight reading, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it makes it so they're not terrified of it, because right away they're always sight reading. So I really think that's an important point to make too, that your students, I use it with my 8 and 9-year-old here at home, so yeah, they don't have to be older to use it. Yeah.
So you're just talking about making it supplemental to your method book. So does it save somewhere so that after you've done that the first year, you've got access to that?
Yes, 100%. So if you make these custom configurations, you can actually save configurations, you can name them, and then, there, again, on your dashboard, there's recent configurations and save configurations. So you can just go to your save configurations, click on it, boom, week 1 Standard of Excellence, click that, and the music pops up on the screen. And again, it's different. This, I don't know if we made this point, but this is algorithmically generated music. So it's going to be different every time. We don't employ composers to write music for us. It's going to be different every single time. So it is truly going to be sight reading every time you generate a new exercise.
Oh, cool. Well, one more thing I want to ask you or come back to real quick. We in the arts, especially in music, it's hard to collect data because administrators understand data, right? They want numbers. When you can do what you're talking here, you could take that data and show the kids' growth individually and as a class, pull out your students with special needs or students that are ELL students and the like. What are they doing and how are they doing it? You're suddenly able to communicate differently with your admin. You could probably, I would see an opportunity to have this funded maybe by a booster group or a PTA when you say, look at what this does for students. And, if anybody out there is thinking, well, how would I do that? Check out my website. I'll use ChatGPT and help you write a grant to pay for something like this, because what you're doing, with the data piece, the growth piece, all the things pieces of evidence that you create that can go into people's evaluations where we have to include evidence of things, you're making it so easy, and kids get better. It's less stress for teachers. This is like win-win-win. So I'm super glad you have created this product.
Yeah, well, thank you. And just real quick about the data thing, that's one of the cool things about our site. You mentioned practice logs, and I can't remember if I said that, but we do have built-in practice logs. It shows how long students are practicing, how many exercises they're practicing. That's one cool data piece. But even a better one is these assignments, especially the auto-graded assignments. You have the grades the students are getting. You can see how they're progressing over the year. You could even do something like, okay, I'm going to, at the beginning of the year, we're all going to do a level 2 or level 1 or whatever. And then we're going to use it throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, we're going to do that exact same configuration, and we're going to see how much improvement there's been. So you can totally prove to your administrators, look, this is working, right? In week 1, this was their score. In week 2, this was their score on the same level. This is absolutely helping my students. You need to keep funding this or whatever. So
yeah. Well, this is great. So tell us, where can people go to find out more and play around with it and check it out?
Yeah, sitereadingfactory.com is the website. We do have a free demo. You can mess around with the mixer, experiment with generating for different instruments, ensembles, levels, key signatures, time signatures. Get a good feel for it. That'll give everyone a real good feel for how it works. And obviously, if they're interested, they can sign up. Accounts are very affordable. $45 for an individual teacher account. Student accounts are low as $3. So again, we try to keep things affordable so it fits into everyone's budget. But yeah, that's how they can do it, sitereadingfactory.com.
Awesome. We'll put that link in the show notes in case anybody's driving. You can get it later. Thank you, Don, for coming and sharing this incredible tool that you've created. What a difference this can make for teachers and kids.
Thank you, Lesley. I appreciate you having me. It was nice talking with you.
Yeah. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Band Director Bootcamp. Thanks to all of you who listen all the time and keep showing up and teaching music to your students every day. And thank you to Don for the product he's created and for sharing all of the details so we better understand it. Hey, remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. Thanks for listening, and keep making a difference in kids' lives through the magic of music education.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Band Director Bootcamp podcast. Remember, success in music education isn't just about what happens on the podium. It's about taking care of yourself and setting up systems that work for you. The Empowered Music Educator Academy is here to help you do just that. So be sure to check out our resources at empowerededucator.com. And of course, a huge thank you to Kennelly Keys Music, our platinum sponsor, for their unwavering support of music educators like you. Whether you need instruments, accessories, or expert advice, their team is ready to help. Thanks for listening, and keep making music happen.